Hi, this is Matt Wenning at WenningStrength.com, and today we're going to go over 4 ways to make things more difficult. Now, this has huge relevance now because a lot of people have home gyms, maybe don't have a lot of extra weight, can't load up too heavy, maybe they don't have enough 45s or big enough dumbbells. So we got some big tips that you can learn to make things more difficult, because remember, progressive overload comes in many shapes and sizes. It doesn't always mean have to go heavier. So one way to make something harder, right? This is a 30-pound dumbbell, and so for a 600-pound bencher, this is nothing. But if I do this for time, this is a pain in the butt. So what I'll do sometimes is I'll do sets for upwards of a minute or more.
45.
So now I got my buddy counting my time down. And trust me when I tell you, when you're doing stuff for time, it is a completely different feel than doing stuff for a certain set of reps. You don't have any way to count. You're just waiting for somebody to tell you to please God stop, right? So make sure you don't break stuff and do things for long times instead of just counting reps. So another way I can make something harder is I can make it more unstable. So the first one we showed, we do stuff for time. That's completely different. Now I'm gonna bench this, and now this thing's wobbly and unstable. It's like Michael J. Fox eating a sandwich. So if I look here, this is much harder just based on the fact that it's unstable, right? So this is a variation that makes something more difficult without necessarily making it heavier. So don't forget this in your training, because I've seen a lot of people miss big weights because they're not stable enough to hit big weights. The next thing we can do is change the variations. So now we've been showing some bench variations, but now I'm going to change the bar. So this is about a 3.5 or 4 inch camber bar. For me, I can't touch it, not even with like 500 pounds. But what it does is it makes it much more difficult than a normal bar because I don't have a reference point. So if I change this bar and I don't have a reference point, obviously it's going to make it a lot more difficult. Now, so that is a great way to change how you're doing something. Now, in reality, we could do this kind of bar, we could do a fat bar, we could do it off the floor, right? Because we're gonna have to stop on our elbow. The point is, we're changing something all the time. We're increasing difficulty without necessarily increasing weight. Now, how you change these different things is dependent upon where your weaknesses are. So if I had a bad start off my bench press, this would be a great bar to use because I can't pause on my chest, therefore my body has to stay tighter. Or if I have a sticking point, say 1 inch or 2 off my chest, a floor press might be a good alternative to use occasionally because it's hitting that particular weak point. Now, it doesn't mean you don't vary things that aren't your weaknesses here and there, but you probably need to put your weaknesses in at least half the time in order to see proper transfer, because let's face it, we all want this stuff to get our 1 rep max on a straight bar bench better. That's usually most people's goal. But another goal in your mind should be, how do I get stronger and have it transfer to multiple environments? Well, if you're changing the angles and positions and resistance types all the time, then therefore you're gonna have more transfer to different environments. And that's why I like to use this thought pattern for all my clients to lower mileage, all of my tactical populations to increase transferability, and also for me to be able to still train super hard at 40 years old when I've been doing this for 27 years and have very minimal joint or spinal issues. So the next thing I can do is change angles. So now I'm on an incline. Now, this is still a bench press, but it's an incline press. So the pec's gonna get hit a little different, the shoulder's gonna get hit different, and the tricep's gonna get hit a little different. So by doing this, my body is gonna have to be trained in a different way. That means that this particular resistance is not gonna be nearly as heavy. My best incline bench is about 525. My best flat bench is 611. But the point is that every time my incline went up, my flat bench went up. Why? Because it hit weaknesses. So the point is that change angles and positions constantly. Therefore, you're going to be able to make something more difficult if you're limited in how much weight you have, or you need transferability in your workouts. So today we talked about how you can make things harder and not necessarily heavier. What we have to remember is that progressive overload comes in many shapes and sizes. So what we showed today was changes in angles, changes in stability, right? Changes in bars or ranges of motion. We could also talk about changes in positions, right? We could go wider or narrower on squats. We could go elevated heel or flat heel. We could go high or low bar on our backs. The point is it's endless on what we could change. But what we need to understand is that we need to reduce mileage when we work out. We need to get stronger, but that should be right equal with reducing mileage. Because let's face it, if we get stronger in the next 2 to 4 years, but then we can't walk when we're 50, it really isn't worth it. So the point is that make sure that you're thinking about progressing in all different shapes and sizes. That way you can stay in the game longer and hit bigger numbers.